break down these computers, and I need to clean this and install a optical drive on it, and we need to clean Senator's computer as well. So let me turn this off. Sorry. How do you turn this off? You got it? Okay, cool. So I'll pass around these things. This is a hard drive. This is the disk base. These are the kind of drives that you would find on servers nowadays. You rarely see these in laptops. The going trend with laptops, because they undergo so much, what is that called, Josh?
Shocks.
Yeah, just the everyday movement around.
It's a mechanical device.
Yeah, this is a mechanical device because there's an actual arm that reads things on a magnetic disk versus a solid state drive. What that does is, from what I remember of the technology, it manipulates gates to remember certain things, the bits, the 0 and 1 bits. So this is a hard drive. And the funny thing too is that's a 10-year-old hard drive, I think. Maybe not even 10. But the interface on that is a very outdated interface called IDE. I forget what IDE stands for. But in this day and age, they have what's called that's the new term for IDE. But back in the day, the IDE, I forgot what it was. Yeah. Versus now, like this optical drive that I'll be handing out, this is your SATA drive, which is super easy to switch in and out. It's like playing with adult Legos. I mean, that's the way I look at computers.
What does SATA stand for?
I forget.
What does S in SATA stand for?
Cereal.
Let's see. Okay, so opening this up. You guys can come over and check it out. What I have here is the APU version, which there's no graphics card in it, as you'll be able to tell right off the bat. Versus, say for instance, this old one. Where's my? Yeah, that's like a double. They call it a double-sized video card. Very beefy. I assume that's like what, 2 gig video RAM? 3? And then this one was a 512 graphics card. 512 meg.
It's actually outdated.
Is that outdated too?
Yeah, they put this to legacy now.
Oh, yeah. And then I'll also pass around these sticks. Remember I told you guys about RAM sticks? So the reason why they have the name sticks is because they look like this. So go ahead and pass that around. Yeah, that's the random access memory. So, do you guys understand how sleep and hibernate work?
No.
No? So sleep and hibernate, what sleep and hibernate does on Windows and Ubuntu is that they actually, what the sleep does is that it lowers the electricity going to the motherboard to the point where it turns almost everything off, but it's giving it enough energy to save to keep the data on the RAM, so that when you restart the computer again, you don't have to go through filling up the RAM with necessary data or any programs of that matter.
Mr. Damo?
Yeah.
What is that?
This is a heatsink. Oh, let me get this out. Let me get this out of the way for you guys. So hibernate is the same thing as sleep, but what hibernate does is that it saves the actual stuff that's on the RAM onto your hard drive disk, and then turns the system completely off. So it doesn't. It only has enough energy to recognize that you turned it on again. Or
Hibernate.
that's hibernate. That's the difference between hibernate and sleep. Yeah.
What's the difference between hibernate and off?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So a lot of laptops.
But if it's saved on your hard drive, then like it's saved.
Yeah, it's saved, but yeah, it's saved at its current state. Versus if you were to turn it off and then turn it back on, you would have a complete swipe of your hard drive, right? Not hard drive, of your memory stick. Yeah.
So why are you usually told to not leave your computer on sleep for too long, like say over an hour?
Uh,
I've heard that.
Really?
yeah,
They warn you not to do it for too long.
I tend to let mine sleep all day.
I think that's an old thing.
Old
Yeah.
Because
No, not a myth. It could be just the old technology.
Yeah.
Because
I know for some laptops, what happens is that the hard drive will eventually I don't know, malfunction for some reason.
Uncle Dom,
yes,
Possibly.
Is so RAM is for temporary
yes,
memory storage only, right?
yes. So what the RAM does, it helps the computer run faster because all the information that it needs right at that moment to run whatever program, say for instance Minecraft.
Hey, Damo,
Yo,
remember these?
yeah, I remember that. This is the motherboard. Go ahead, you guys can fucking break it. I don't care. Well, actually, let me crack this open so you guys can actually see the chip too. So what I'm about to do, never do to your computer unless you really know how to install a processor, because it's one of those things when you install it, you don't want to take it apart unless you really have to. Okay? So what I'm gonna do
This
is,
is a computer building workshop. They teach us, right?
yeah, I'm gonna teach you guys. So you unhook the fan that goes to the heatsink, and then you flip. Certain heatsinks have different ways of doing it. AMD has a heatsink. This is a stock heatsink that came with the AMD chip. So they have an easy up switch like that, and then you unhook this tab. Where is it on this side? Shit.
Oh, sorry, Uncle Damo.
Whatever, you guys are old enough. Okay. Now, I'm gonna have to rip this off and be a little destructive on it. The reason being is because the heat. I'll explain to you once I open it up.
don't
tab,
you need
the
to
tab.
unscrew that?
No, you don't.
Is
There.
it
Oh, there we
detaches?
go.
Yeah, it pulls the chip out sometimes, so you always have to be careful.
Oh, did the chip get pulled out this time?
Yeah. So,
Oh,
so in order for the chip to transfer heat to the heat sink properly, you have to put what's called thermal paste, right? And thermal paste tends to it helps facilitate the transfer of heat from the chip to the. Can I get a napkin?
So the heat transfer is more linear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Thanks. So this you tend to only do when you're gonna replace the chip itself. And even that, there's a compatibility issue because certain motherboards accommodate only certain chips. So what the companies do, say for instance Intel and AMD, they'll create what's called a chip family. For instance, I think this one is the Athlon 64 chip family, and they set in stone for like the next 5 years. This is what we're gonna. This is the interface from the chip to the motherboard. And again, it's kind of like. God, this thing's really messy. I should have just done this ahead of time. Huh? I want to be able to hand this to you guys. So.
why don't you walk around and we'll look at it?
No. You guys need to touch it. Yeah.
Get all that.
It's just thermal paste.
Is it
Different kinds of
toxic?
thermal paste.
There's different kinds. There's one that has metal based into it to help with conduction. That's this stuff. This is the expensive stuff. It's called Arctic Silver. And then there's like the cheap white stuff that you can use too. I've never really came into any difference between the two, but I don't overclock. You guys know what overclocking is?
No.
Okay, so overclocking, what that does is there's different things that you can tell your motherboard to do in order to get better performance from your chip, such as increasing the electricity going to the chip. These chips, they run on, I don't even know if they say it on here, but certain chips, they run on mostly like 1.9 volts, but then you can up your voltage to like 2.2. Now what happens when you put too much energy into a chip?
What happens, Damo?
It overheats. So then you'll need to get like a bigger heatsink like the one Senator has.
Can I see it?
Can you show it?
Anytime, girl.
Why am I sweating so much? And I wish I could take out the APU because then you'll actually see that the real estate is slightly bigger. Like this, you see how this is a square? The APU actually extends out a little bit more. Yeah. Let's see. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, just keep asking. Yeah. Yeah, that's how old it is. We're at DDR5 right now, guys. So that's how old that computer is.
2
yeah.
gigs of RAM.
2 gig, yeah. Nowadays you can
Filthy
get
casual.
these sticks are. I believe they're 4. These sticks are 4. I don't want to take it out because I already sold this thing. I actually had to go to a friend who I sold it to and say, "Hey, I'm doing a presentation. Can I borrow it?" He's like, "Sure. Can you wipe the stuff that the kids installed?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So, okay, so everyone saw this. Pass that around.
Hey, Uncle Damo.
Yeah.
Question: what does diffused mean?
Diffused.
Diffused in Germany, made in Malaysia.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it like
I don't know. I don't know.
diffusion currents? Opposite of.
So as you go through on this board, you'll notice all the different ports. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. Just ask, like, if you think that, if you want to learn more
So
about a
they-
particular. Okay, so this stuff comes with the case. So when you buy your case, you'll more than likely be lucky enough to get the motherboard. I mean, not the motherboard, the power supply built or shipped with it. Let's take the motherboard, the power supply out too. And the case also more than likely will come with these cables. These cables are your input, or yeah, your inputs from, say for instance, the LEDs that blink when your hard drive gets activated, your power switch, your reset switch, your front ports, like this one has front ports here with I believe USB and your sound jacks. Yeah, so if you guys ever want to decide to build a computer, let me know. I have all these parts just lying around. Like, if you guys know who Bronson Oka is, he needed a computer, and I had 2 half computers. So then he ended up taking the hard drive from this case and putting it in the in his server. No, this stuff
Yeah,
just.
did you have the-
Well, yeah. I don't know what else stuff I got right now. You got it?
Yeah, so you-
Okay, catch you later. So this is the power supply. You'll see in Matt's rig, his power supply is huge, and it's one of the high-end companies too. What I also spotted is a very, very dinosaur-like component. I'll take those. You need these, huh?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you guys know. Let's go through the history of computers real quick. Okay, why is it that your hard drive that holds your OS is considered the C colon? And C colon. What happened to the A
the
colon?
C drive?
Yeah, the C drive, which tends to be always the main hard drive that holds everything. But why is it? What happened to the A drive and B drive?
The 5.5 and 3.5 floppy disk.
Exactly. Oh, I can't take it out. So what happened in history was that the only way that computers could have data was by using the floppy drives or floppy disks. And to read those disks, you had these drives. And this one is the 3.5-inch one. You got it? But I think you gotta push it forward. There you go. God, it's fucking dusty.
No swearing, Mr. Damo.
So yeah, that's really archaic. You guys will never have to look at that again.
You never know.
It'll never come back. I swear to God.
I have floppy disks. I don't know if they have anything else.
Yeah, you know, I have a 3.5-inch disc, and I'm like, oh, how am I gonna read this later? Now I know how.
Like, wow,
I see. What else?
2.5 gigs.
What else can I show you?
No, it's like kilobytes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What else? What else do you guys want to see?
The difference between the slots.
The slots.
Not even anymore.
Wait, what slots?
The base. I mean the PCI.
Oh, yeah. So,
Expansion
where's,
slots.
yeah, I think it'll be better. Where's the motherboard? I can point it out to you on the red motherboard.
What are you looking for?
The red motherboard? The slots? Yeah. So here's the case. I don't know if I should pass this around. It's really dirty and
It's
dusty.
gone.
That is true.
He's not gonna
Our
use
kids
it.
are not gonna.
You guys can
know.
always
Yeah.
check out the case later. All right, so let's look at this right now.
Show them
Okay.
and pull up the
So, from what I understand, this is what your north bridge. Your north bridge assists with computation. Not all the computation really happens here, but what happens is it'll do a computation, and if there's like, say for instance, a simple one like add and subtract, it shoots it over to the north bridge, and then the north bridge would do that computation and send it back to the CPU. What's really cool is the chipset. This is your audio chipset. Remember, I was telling about how nowadays the audio, unless you're like a real big audiophile, the integrated audio IP is built right into the motherboard. So that's this right here. This is the chip that processes your sound, and this I believe is your south bridge. And your south bridge takes care of all your peripherals. Say for instance, your hard drive. These are your graphics cards. All this feeds into this chip that then interacts with the CPU. Let's see what else. Let's go over the ports. This is an IDE port. Again, this, like I said before, these old ones have the IDE port interface. So because these things are still around, they added it here, and I believe there's one on here as well, or not. Yeah, they took it out already. So by the time this was built, which was early last year, they already took this port out. This is your power port that comes from your power supply. Yeah. So nowadays, this is a 22 socket port. But nowadays, there's what's called the 20. Oh, I'm sorry. This is 20, and then now it's the 24. So nowadays, you'll see these 24 sockets here. Yeah. What else? What else? These are your SATA ports, which would be connected with this cable. I wish I had the. I wish I could have showed you guys the IDE port. Oh yeah, there's one right there. So these ports would just connect in right here, right? And then it would then connect to, like, say for instance, hard drive, which has the SATA on it. Let's see what else. Oh, where's the optical drive? No, the optical drive. The DVD drive, the black one. Okay, we'll look for it later. Yeah. So like this video card, this board allows for what's called crossfire, which means that you can put two video cards. These sockets are called GP. No. What are they called? Hey, what are these called? AGP. Accelerated graphics port. Yeah. So there's some motherboards out there, and again, it's all due to the size. For instance, this one, since I went smaller, I just ended up getting an APU with an integrated graphics card in the die, so I didn't have this problem. But it already comes with two. Oh, these aren't AGP. I'm sorry. These are AGP is older. AGP was before the PCI Express. So these are PCI Express. I don't know what PCI stands for. I forget now. But anyway, these longer ports tend to be for these graphics cards. And when you have a motherboard with two of these, you could actually run what's called crossfire, which is having two of these in, and then you see this port here. You would actually connect the two video cards. So they tell you not to use two different cards. You should always use two of the same cards. And then there's a bridge that comes with the kit, and it bridges the two cards together, which they basically did with this one, because it's literally two cards put together. Yeah. What else? And then these ports are just the regular PCI ports. These ports you would use, say for instance, if you wanted to add a high-end audio card, then you would put it here. If, say, for instance, you wanted to add firewire capability or lightning capability, then you would put it here. These are your expansion ports. Let's see what else. What else? And then here are your headers for your external USB ports. If these ports aren't enough for you, the built-in ports. Yeah. Any questions? No?
What are the green and orange ones again?
These? Oh, so these are your DIM ports. DIMs are your memory cards, which are your RAM sticks, right? And what's really cool is that the different. So, say for instance, if you're using DDR2 versus DDR3, like these are DDR3s, they have a different notch. Their notch is positioned differently, so that way that prevents you from accidentally putting the wrong speed or whatnot, or the wrong technology of RAM. Yeah, and you guys can come in and try it for yourself. It's like Legos. I swear to God, you push it in and then it clicks into place. The tabs, they actually click into place. Like this one, you could line it up, stick it down, and that's it. That's all it is. It's literally Legos for adults.
Do you have any comments on safety and handling of the parts while you're installing?
Oh yeah. Always discharge. Well, one, always unplug it, and two, always discharge. When you're not in Hawaii, in other places, you can create a lot of static charge just by standing around. So what they say is that you should touch touch the case in order to dissipate the charge that you built up. Here in Hawaii, because of its high humidity, it's really not a big problem. But again, for those who start playing around with these computers, that's one of the things that you have to do. Always consciously remember to touch the case every so often. Anyone have any questions about like cleaning the computer?
How do you clean it?
So what you want is a brush, right? Don't use a wire brush for the obvious reasons. What I suggest well, it's not just scratching, but you see how you have all these little components. You could literally like, if you are too rough, you'll actually like break a leg on it, right? On like these IC chips and whatnot. So what they say to do is don't use a vacuum, because what happens is the vacuum, say for instance, is like a plastic tip. In order to increase your vacuum strength, what do?
You get closer.
You get closer. Exactly. If you get too close, you're gonna break a leg or a trace, and then you're screwed. You're gonna have to replace your motherboard, which if you do it yourself, the motherboard itself, like this one, would be like $50. This motherboard, I went a little extra and got the $100 version, but it's relatively cheap to build your own computer. I mean, I suggest you guys do it. You could build a basic one for your parents for like $200 that you can throw onto your TV. There's like other computers and other form factors that make it even like 80% the size of this. So just imagine a computer that's that big, right? And then there's also these new things that the companies are coming out with, which is called system on chips, which takes all this stuff that was on the board, like the North Bridge, the South Bridge, the audio chip, and actually put it on the die itself, and that's called a system on chip, or otherwise known as an SoC. But that's like 2-3 years from now, it'll be more popular. Okay, so to clean it, instead of using a vacuum, what you want to do, depending on how dirty and dusty it is, like this is highly dusty, so you're gonna want to do it outside. But I won't actually use the compressed air. But what you want to do is, as you're brushing this off, you want to assist with the compressed air so that the dust will fly off and not be on your motherboard. And again, do it outside, like somewhere that that doesn't have a lot of rain. Don't do it in the rain, I guess. However, as long as it's not plugged. Listen, there's one thing I don't want you guys to do it, but literally, as long as it's unplugged and there's no electrical charge, you could actually dip this in water. But don't plug it in until
It's fully
until
dry.
until it's fully dry. Because these things, it's inanimate, right? I mean, it's as long as the reason why you don't want to get it wet is because certain traces will get shorted. Because water is a great conductor, right?
Bag rice.
Huh?
Get bag rice.
Get big race.
Get bag rice.
Yeah. That's one thing you can do too. Rice is a natural desiccant. So, say for instance, if you drop your cell phone in water, what you can do then is take it and just put it in a bag of rice, and it'll.
Raw rice.
Yeah, raw
I've seen
rice.
people actually
They put it in cooked rice?
I thought putting it in the rice attracts Asians to fix your electronics.
Oh!
No, that's not how it
Ching.
is.
No.
No,
No, I've actually heard of a high school kid putting it in the rice cooker.
that's crazy.
God.
Yeah, and what's really fun too is that you have to be kind of like troubleshooting. When you guys come over here and check this out, I actually had to change. I had to bend back a brace because it was interfering with the power supply. Certain motherboards have different places to put their power supply socket, but this particular board, it was either I return it and wait another 2 weeks to get something better or something that accommodates the case, or I just fuck around with the case. So I was mad because I was like, Harley was with me. We're in Austin, and he's watching me do this. And I'm like, I really want to get this thing, like, I want to power it up in like the next hour. So let me see if I can.
Start hammering away.
Yeah, I'll show you what I did. Okay.
Oh god.
Yeah, you see it already, right?
Oh.
Not bad.
Yeah, so this was actually coming out straight like that, and I couldn't plug it in, cause and you guys can come around and look at it. I couldn't plug it in, so I was so frustrated because I already waited so long for the parts to come in. I was like, okay, I even waited like 2 days because I was like, I want to do this on a weekend, and I wanted to have Harley watch me, right? Because in case I fuck up, then Harley's right there, hold my hand. So then. That Saturday, I was like, oh, fuck, it won't work. And so I just bent it back.
Angry
And-
Hulk.
Yeah, so here you can pass that around. Oh, and then you can also see, like, the different, how this one is the IDE and this is the SATA. So you can see, like, it was a bitch to put things into the socket because the resistance, it's called insertion force. So, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so insertion force is like when when you plug into the wall, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard to push it in.
Oh.
That's called insertion force. So these sockets are what's called ZIF sockets, ZIF, which is called zero insertion force. Stop laughing. I know what you guys are thinking. Where's the chip? Alright, hand me that chip.
I'm thinking of building a circuit.
So zero insertion is basically when you lift this lever, there is another piece of metal underneath that holds this stuff in place. When you lift this lever up, you can drop the chip. Let me see if I can drop it correctly. You can actually drop the chip in without any force. There, right? So you guys can come in and play around with it too. Oh, I think I bent the. No. It's not that hard. It's not that bad. Don't worry. It is kind of bad. And this is why I say don't do it unless you don't do this part. Don't take the chip out unless you really have to. Otherwise, you're screwed. Okay, there. It works. So it goes in, and then you just clamp it down, and then it's supposed to stay. So when you take the heatsink off, it's supposed to just leave the chip on, but because of the intense heat that it goes through, it actually congeals. What?
So
Oh, you got a question.
I had a stock cooler, and I upgraded to a better one. So I had to take off the thing, and it was stuck to with the thermal paste. It was stuck to the processor. So I turned it on for 10 minutes to heat it up, and then the thermal paste didn't really stick.
You're
You
a
just
genius. I never
take it
thought of that. All these
so you don't rip it off
Yeah.
and like take a chip out.
Genius.
Yeah.
But you unplugged it before you actually did it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's zero insertion force. The insertion force on these IDEs, you could actually destroy the cable that connected these things because it was so it was so fragile back in the day. But nowadays, because of these things, it's like plugging. It's literally plug and play. So again, you can play around with this one right here.
Are you gonna install your?
Yeah. So I gotta install that sucker eventually too.
So you still need like screws.
Oh, I have a comment about cleaning
Yes.
the parts. So, hi, I'm Robin. I used to work for the physics department. In the physics department, we would fabricate circuit boards. And so, we would actually assemble things ourselves. But when I was working on the high voltage stuff, fingerprints and all kinds of little nasties can get on the board and like short circuit things. So we'd clean them. And I would actually use rubbing alcohol, where you can actually, you can't easily get it, but they sell 99.9% isopropyl.
At Longs, right?
Not at all. You have to get this online. But it's actually specially made for cleaning electronics. And so what I would actually do is, depending on the severity of the grime, because sometimes when you're soldering, the flux can harden if you like leave it there, and it's really gross. So you can actually get like a mild detergent, mix it with water, and get a very soft bristle toothbrush. Dip it in the water detergent mixture, and then you use the toothbrush to kind of get all the gunk off. And then before you're after it's clean, you can dip it in rubbing alcohol. That's specially made for electronics. And then if you're in a super hurry, then you can get like a hair dryer. We used a heat gun, but it's basically a hair dryer. And you just use that, and I've never had a problem with water. But I've literally like let stuff soak in water because it's like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm just gonna let this.
You use teenager alcohol.
Probably. I never had to get to that
but
level.
MG Chemicals. I think it's MG Chemicals sells like circuit board cleaner. That's it looks exactly like the compressed air, except it's a liquid that has like an alcohol, and make sure you wear like gloves and stuff. But it's really easy to clean stuff.
Any other questions?
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
So I think one of the biggest things when you're building a new computer is like being scared that you actually have to spend your money ordering parts, and you want it to know it's all going to work together, right?
Right.
So I think like choosing the parts, like what should you choose first and what depends on what. So maybe like you choose the CPU, that socket tells you what kind of motherboard you have. That motherboard will tell you what kind of RAM you can use.
Compatibility is a huge issue with computer parts.
Can you
They
give
have
us
actual-
like a list and like the order in which to buy things?
Well, that's why I
Like
wrote in the
instructions.
presentation. There's really no right or wrong place to start.
What's recommended if you've never done this before and you're like a retard?
You
Like me. No,
Well,
I'm a retard. I'm
yeah.
serious.
So the first thing you want to do is figure out. You need to have like a soul search and like ask yourself, what do I really want to use this for, right? And then from there, that dictates how much money. That dictates how expensive the parts are gonna be.
And what's gonna be compatible with what?
Right, and then what's going to be compatible. Because say, for instance, you want to make a home theater PC. Home theater PCs, again, they're like 80% the size of this, right? Now, if that's the case, then you buy a home theater case, which is like a mini ITX form factor. Then from there, you're going to have to get a mini ITX motherboard, which then means that that motherboard then dictates what kind of memory you're gonna get, what kind of chip you're gonna get. So, yeah. So it's really what does the person that you're building it for want to, right? And that also goes into, say, for instance, what kind of operating system you want to use, how experienced is the client with Windows versus Ubuntu or whatnot. Again, aside from the very first step that I presented in the presentation, you can go in any different direction that you want. I mean, that's what's really fun. Like, you could get a huge case like that, which this is considered. Is that a full case? That's not a full case,
No,
right?
that's a mid.
That's a mid tower. You can get that. You can get one the size of 4 of those put together. That's Harley's. You know the 3 cubic foot refrigerators, personal refrigerators. Harley has one that big. And I'm like, when I saw it, I was like, are you serious? He does.
Why?
I don't know. But then it's beautiful because there's so much room. But then what happens when you have too much? Well, what happens if you have room? You can put more components in, right? You could have like, I mean, it's really up to your imagination. See, for instance, like back in the day, I had a guy who was a promoter, right? And he was promoting stuff. He lived in the Waimanalo. I go out there, I shoot the shit with him, and then he was like, Damo, I need an automated CD copier. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? I want to be able to punch out as many CDs as I want. And I was like, all right, well, we can make it so that you get one of those full towers like Harley does. Load it up with 10 CD writers and one reader. And you pop one CD in to read, and then as it's reading, it records to the other 10, and every iteration you'll get 10 CDs, right? So then, I guess what I'm trying to say to you is it's really up to your imagination, right? If you have a big case, you can start loading up with big stuff with a bunch of drives, but that in turn dictates how big your power supply is. This power supply is only 200 watts, versus that one that Center has. That's more on the terms of 650 to 800.
And for power supply, I would say maybe if you choose all your components first, then there are things online you can like enter what components you have, and it can tell you what wattage you need.
Yeah,
so you
there's
don't
there's calculators
Yeah.
online that help you with that. Let us know and we'll get to you. Can I borrow this? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just. It's. How many of you guys ever worked on a car? Okay, what kind of car did you guys work on? An Accord, like late '90s.
Yeah, early 90s.
What kind of car did you work on?
Escort, Ford Escort.
What year?
92.
Okay. What was the one thing? The second you open up the hood, what was your first impressions of it?
Ew.
There's no space. Exactly. So like in order to fix the alternator, to replace the alternator, you would have to like take apart the power steering assembly. You'd have to take apart the the intake manifold, etc., right? Just to get to one part. So that's what I'm doing right now. Is that I have to take off this hard drive just to get to the bigger hard drive. What's really cool is that I can show you the difference between a solid state drive and a regular disk drive. So go ahead. What he has in his hand is the solid state drive. One of the good things about having a solid state drive is one, the speed. It's ridiculous. Like there's new protocols going on about your BIOS. You know how in order to get your BIOS, you mash like F2 as it's starting up, right, to get to your BIOS settings. With the solid state drive, because they talk to the computer so fast, that window to hit your F2 to get to the setting screen, it's down to like 0.2 of a second, which means that Windows 8 is a new The new thing about the Windows 8 is that it allows you to access the BIOS after you start up Windows 8, because to get that 0.2 second window to press the F2 button, it's practically impossible nowadays. And then this is the solid state drive, so you can hand that. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's a solid state, and this is the regular disk drive, which has the platters stacked on top of each other in an arm. So it means that there's a lot of moving parts. So it uses a lot of electricity too, right? And it needs more size. The bad thing though about solid state drives is its dependability. The more you use a solid state drive, the higher the probability that it won't hold your bit. So although there's new software that helps correct these error bits, it's a prevalent issue with solid state drives.
It seems like the more you use it, it gets shittier.
Yeah, the more you use it, the less dependable it is.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
So is it good to have like both type of hard drives?
Good question. So what they're doing now is what's called a hybrid drive, and that's what I have on my laptop. I'm not going to take it out because my laptop's brand new. But a hybrid drive, what that does, the first 128 gigs is solid state, and then everything, like I have a 750 gig hard drive. So like the first 150 gigs is solid state, and the next 500 gigs is disk state. So what that happens then is that there's a controller built. I think it's built into the hard drive itself that dictates what to pull up to the solid state sectors. So it's essentially acting as if they're the RAM sticks, right? Because the RAM sticks, the whole purpose of the RAM sticks is to get what files you need now as a processor to be right at your fingertips, right? So then what the solid state drive on a hybrid, it brings all the information that you need that's on the disk and puts it on the hybrid on the solid state part of the drive, so that recall time is kept to a minimum. Yeah,
So
pretty
you
cool
see
stuff.
the Damo.
Yeah,
What
and
is RAID?
RAID. I forgot what RAID stands for, but there's different types of RAID what is it?
Redundant array of independent disks.
Oh, yeah. So the whole point of RAID is to help with inconsistencies with the hard drives. That's initially what it was for. Hence the word redundancy. They wanted to make sure that if you have a file on there, there's multiple ways of correcting if there's a bit in that file that was in error. There's RAID 0 to, I think, 6? Is it 7? And those are basically, each RAID configuration allows you to take multiple disks and basically make your computer look at that multiple disk as if it's just one disk. And that helps with the redundancy issue and fix the errors. Is there any other questions? Am I answering you guys' questions? Or am I just blabbering? Yeah. I'm having fun. Are you guys having fun?
So much fun.
So, you guys are more than welcome to touch all of this stuff. Just don't touch this because it's already been paid for. And the kids were like, Dad, I can't play any movies. I can't. And I was like, shit, I built it for you guys. So these things are $20. So I said, okay, I'm not going to put it in and save you guys $20. But, yeah, the kids were like, we want it. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll put it in for you guys. So I'll be installing this in the next 30 minutes. Please go ahead, play around, familiarize yourself with the chips and whatnot.
Do you have a piece of shit hard drive we can just destroy and look inside?
Yeah. Please. Anything that has the IDEs. Actually, do it on this one. Wait, shit.
Wait, we're done.
No, you know what? I haven't even looked at these in so long. Go ahead, pop them open if you have the right tool.
Destroy it really well so it can't be recovered.
You know what's really cool? When I was at AMD, the amount of you guys know what e-waste is, right? This is all e-waste. The amount of e-waste was ridiculous. Like my boss or my mentors, they would come by like at 4 o'clock and we would be finished at 5, right? The day would end at 5. They come around, they go, hey, Damo. I'm like, what? You want to go dumpster diving? I'm like, okay. So we go to like a particular place in the building and they have like these huge bins. Like, yeah, about the size of this island of tables, right? And they would like make me climb over, and there's all this stuff. So we would find all the old hard drives, and we crack them open and get the magnets. There's like these little magnets that they really liked. Yeah, and then we would just play with them. It's stupid. And like I was telling them, so is this stuff like, can I just take it? Because there were like a bunch of shuttles. You guys know what shuttles are? Shuttles are really small computers that are just like this one, where it's made so that you can carry it around and whatnot, right? And then they're like, well, there's a reason why it's in the bin, Damo. It doesn't work. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And basically, to replace like certain shuttle parts is kind of expensive because shuttle is an actual proprietary equipment. Yeah. Any other questions?
How often should you like upgrade your parts?
Okay, so as far as upgrade is concerned, I tend to tell my clients, are you enjoying your experience? Right? That's the main thing. Because to them, everything inside this box they don't care. As long as what they see on the screen and what they input onto the mouse and their keyboard, if they're happy with that, then you you shouldn't break it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. However, for those of us who use like MATLAB or who code or who do a lot of computation work, say for instance, then yeah, you would want to like I started out with my desktop, and then I decided, well, my desktop can't do it anymore. So then I had, actually I think it was this one. I had upgraded the drive and I added more RAM. But that doesn't go and answer your question. How often do you do it, right? Again, it's not really about the time. It's about the experience of the user itself, right? If the user is saying, like my boss, she has a laptop and she had like 20,000 applications going and doing computations and stuff. And she's like telling me, Christian, my computer is slow. And I told her, well, how many gigs of RAM do you have on it? She's like, well, I have 8 right now. And I told her, well, how much money do you have? And she's like, well, I have a lot because it's for, it's a school's computer. We upgraded 16 gigs and she's been flying ever since. And that's the first upgrade that she had on that laptop in 2 years. Yeah. I personally find that I have to upgrade at least one part once a year. If it's like a video card, like when Star Wars Online came out, I had to buy a better video card. When I started doing computation work, then I had to add more RAM so that I could have multiple screens up and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. But it's really, again, it comes down to your experience. If you think that it's slow, then just go ahead and do your research. More than likely, you wouldn't even have to replace your chip. You just upgrade your RAM and you'll be flying again. I think this computer, like I said, the chip is 2006, and I was using this until I went to AMD a year ago. So that's what, 2013? So upgrading constantly really saved me money. I mean, over 7 years, I must have maybe put in from the beginning to the end, cumulative, maybe less than $1,000 for 7 years worth of computing happiness. Yeah. Good questions. Did I answer it?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
What's your take on solid states and hard disks?
Oh, yeah, we just talked about it. Can some of you guys tell me why? What's the pros and cons of having a solid state drive?
Expensive and fast.
Expensive and fast.
It degrades over time.
The more you
It
use
degrades,
the
yes.
better.
Yeah. Answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah. Good questions. Good questions.
Oh, I have another question. Do you have this?
I don't. I have one at home, but not here. Yeah.
Throw it off the phone.
Go ahead.
See if this.
I tried like 2 weeks ago. Hammers don't work well.
The hammers don't work well.
Plastic.
Oh, also, when since we were talking about e-waste earlier, when disposing of your hard drives, drill it. You want to take a drill and drill right through your platters to destroy them, because when you do give it to, say, for instance, like Best Buy or whatnot, yeah, you can still run certain things to read what's on your discs. That's why they always suggest that you drill a hole through your platters to destroy them.
I heard running a heavy magnet over it.
That works sometimes, because you have to get one of those heavy magnets. It's not like something you can find, easily. Not to mention, there's like, throw metal into a microwave.
No, like buy a shitty $10 one from Craigslist for the sheer purpose.
Well, I guess you could do that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Or you just take a drill and drill through. To give you an idea, like computers are on its way to a place where everyone's gonna have one. It's just a matter of figuring out what's the best size of accessibility, and a lot of people are saying that it's the tablets, and that's why AMD and Intel are moving towards integrating everything onto one chip with the Haswells and the APUs. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm enjoying this. I get to talk about computers. Yes.
Why are you so good at this?
I don't know.
Timeout.
I really, honestly, I have no idea. Here's a story. When I first got out of high school, I wanted to be a doctor. For 15 years, I chased this dream of being a doctor. Yeah, it's an Asian dream. So, but what did I do on the side? I built computers. You know the PS2s? I don't know if you guys remember PS2s and Xbox,
Yes.
the original Xbox.
Yes.
I lived on campus at the apartments. Everyone would. I'd be like just watching TV, and a guy, just a stranger, would pop his head in. I have like flyers telling everyone, "Hey, I can do this for you," and they'll just pop in and be like, "Hey, you're the guy who does the modifications." I'm like, "Yeah, I can do it." He goes, "Oh, can you modify mine?" And I would basically like make enough money to pay for like my incidentals just by doing that. And it's really funny because nowadays my sister found a stack of my flyers, and she's like, "Wow, it took you 15 years to figure it out. It's right here." Like she even took one. She has it framed and it's hanging in her bedroom as a reminder that I spent 15 years finding what I should have done right under my nose. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Is it turning off? Is it not turning off?
No,
Anything else
I was reading
before
what it
his
said.
hard drive gets full?
7% battery.
It was great. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, you can touch any of this stuff. I don't care. Just don't touch this, but you can look around and ask me questions while I'm working on it. Cool? Thank you.